Can you believe that our ancestors once faced the planet's most terrifying predators with nothing but bare hands and a few stones picked from the ground? Imagine this. One morning, as Homo habilis, our distant ancestor, bent down to drink from a stream, a massive crocodile exploded from the water, jaws wide open, ready to devour. If it were you, would you react in time during that split second between life and death? And that was only the beginning. After escaping the crocodile, Homo habilis was swept away by a deadly mudslide, and then chased through the wilderness by a furious ostrich, fighting for survival every step of the way. Just one day, but an unending chain of life-or-death battles. Could Homo habilis survive and still find food? Join us as we travel back millions of years to witness these primal moments of survival. Let's embark with us on a journey to explore humanity's primal survival, witnessing the struggles, strength, and evolution that shaped us into who we are today. A new day dawned, and Homo habilis awoke. Homo habilis stepped outside, took a deep breath, and stretched, gazing at the blue sky as if to gather courage for the long hunt ahead. With nothing but calloused hands and the memory of places that once provided food, Homo habilis murmured familiar trails and set off. The morning grass was still dewy, the air mild, and the short chirps of birds punctuated the silence, opening a new day. By habit, Homo habilis went to the stream's edge to drink before seeking food. Cool water sparkled over pebbles at the bottom. Homo habilis knelt, cupping hands to scoop water. Suddenly, a strong ripple disturbed the water a few strides away. A long, dark shadow emerged, eyes silently drifting on the surface. A crocodile. In a flash, it parted the water, darting straight toward the bank where Homo habilis was bent down. The crocodile lunged onto the water's edge, mouth agape, launching a direct strike from close range. Homo habilis recoiled, feet slipping on wet pebbles. With no wide escape path, Homo habilis quickly dodged aside, stooping to grab suitable stones. Their sharp edges felt cool in hand. As the crocodile continued to advance, Homo habilis hurled the first stone at its snout and eyes, then quickly picked up more, throwing them repeatedly to the rhythm of agitated breaths. Each throw aimed to maintain distance and prevent a sudden tail whip. The crocodile, at a disadvantage on land, was vulnerable to stones hitting sensitive spots, twisting its head and body sharply in reaction. Homo habilis did not stop, throwing and moving in an arc to avoid a direct charge, utilizing the drier ground which offered better footing than the muddy edge. Another stone struck its jaw, causing it to flinch. Realizing the opponent was not easily subdued, the crocodile slowly retreated, submerging itself in the deep water. Bubbles rose, and it withdrew into the stream, leaving behind spreading ripples that gradually faded into silence. Panting, chest still burning from the exertion of running and throwing, Homo habilis looked around, ensuring no immediate danger remained. The search for food was still unfinished, awaiting the next steps. Dark clouds gathered thickly from the west, the first rumble of thunder like stones rolling inside a mountain. Then a lightning bolt tore across the sky, striking the forest edge with blinding light. The wind whipped the grass backward, and rain poured down torrentially, transforming the trail into a slippery, muddy path in an instant. Shallow ditches became small streams. Homo habilis sought high ground for shelter when the earth suddenly trembled slightly. The soft soil on the hillside, undercut by water, crumbled into fragments. A large streak of mud broke off like a rug violently pulled. Homo habilis slipped, body swept away by the murky stream of mud and water. Cold water lashed against the chest. Limbs flailed, searching for a handhold. Dry branches and debris swirled with the current, striking from both sides. Homo habilis struggled to keep their head above water, breathing shallowly, turning sideways with the current to avoid being submerged by their own body weight. The relentless rain turned the low-lying path into a swift torrent. Each attempt to stand firm resulted in the slippery mud pulling the feet down. Homo habilis braced their abdomen, held their breath, and raised an arm to shield their face when a strange object rushed toward them from upstream. In that blinding white swirl, a dark mass appeared within reach, a large tree root protruding from the bank, firmly anchored like a forest rope. Homo habilis lunged with their entire arm to grasp it. Their hands slipped once due to the mud, but the second time, their fingers gripped the rough ridges of the root. Homo habilis tightened their hold, shifting their entire weight onto their biceps and shoulders so the water would rush past their hips, reducing the pulling force. Slowly, Homo habilis pulled themselves toward the root, resting their knee on the bank, then pushing off with their hip. One foot dug into the root's base, the other wrapped around the root like an anchor. No spoils of the hunt, no wild fruits filling their hands, only breath and an intact body after the ordeal. But the journey had to continue as the rain subsided. Homo habilis resumed the unfinished search for food with a deeply ingrained lesson. Besides fangs and claws, floods and landslides were also invisible predators. The best weapons remained observant eyes, grasping hands, and an unwavering will in the midst of the current. The Homo habilis's quest for food continued. Reaching a sun-dappled clearing, Homo habilis paused. On the warm sand, amidst low grass, was a large ostrich nest. In the nest, a young ostrich chick, its downy feathers scorched by the sun, tottered near the edge of the nest. Homo habilis crept into a thick bush, its stiff leaves rustling against their arm. From here, every movement at the ostrich nest was clearly visible through the leaves. The mother ostrich circled once, then stretched its neck to look into the distance. It strode away from the nest, gradually disappearing behind the tall grass. Homo habilis held their breath, waiting a few more moments to be sure. The only sounds remaining were the rustle of the wind and the steady hum of insects. When the clearing was quiet enough, Homo habilis gently parted the leaves and crawled out of hiding. As their hand touched the edge of the sand, the ostrich chick startled. At the same moment, a heavy thumping sound echoed from the high ground. The mother ostrich had returned. In a flash, its long neck extended, wings fanning up dust, powerful legs kicking hard. Homo habilis quickly grabbed the chick and sprang back from the nest. The chase began. The mother ostrich charged, its long strides tearing at the ground. Each wing flap sent a wave of pressure close to their back. Homo habilis ran along the edge of the clearing, choosing a winding path to avoid being cornered. Holding the chick in their arms, they constantly shifted their shoulders to avoid a sudden peck from behind. Seeing a dense thicket ahead, Homo habilis plunged into it. Dry branches intertwined, snagging their hair and arms, but also forming a natural shield. The mother ostrich circled the thicket, pacing back and forth, its head lowered, beak poking into openings to threaten. It did not give up, relentlessly searching for a way to force Homo habilis out into the open. Homo habilis moved in a zigzag pattern within the dense bush, using gaps between branches to change direction, extending the distance. But the wing flaps still brushed against the outer branches, rattling as if trying to burst everything open. Below the slope, a strip of water gleamed in the sun. Homo habilis burst out of the thicket, leaping into the river, cold water rushing up to their chest. The ostrich chick struggled in their arms. Homo habilis swam diagonally with all their might, choosing the calmer current to shake off the pursuer, eyes still glancing back at the bank to see if the mother ostrich would follow. The mother ostrich stopped at the water's edge, pacing back and forth, wings spread wide, stamping its feet helplessly before the deep water. In the middle of the current, algae clung to their hands, making them slippery. The ostrich chick suddenly struggled fiercely. A momentary lapse in rhythm, their hand lost its grip, and the little ostrich chick escaped. Instinctively, its young legs darted like an arrow, disappearing into the wet grass on the other side. Gasping for breath, Homo habilis stood still for a few moments, looking back across the river. On the opposite bank, the mother ostrich still paced the water's edge, her neck extended, listening. There was no sound of pursuit across the river, but her gaze still pierced through the water like a prolonged warning. Failure, but breath remained, feet still steady. Homo habilis turned their back on the water's edge, walking along the damp grass strip, choosing higher ground to avoid the mud. The sun had climbed higher. The wind was drier, small bird shadows streaking across the light. The journey to find food had to continue despite the recent failure. Each step returned to the old rhythm, seeing, hearing, smelling, measuring distances, choosing the path forward. And in that steady rhythm, Homo habilis kept a very small pause in their mind for next time. The path ahead opened up, not promising but not closing off either. Homo habilis set off, leaving behind a wet bank and fading footprints under the harsh sun, carrying with them a quiet determination. Today's failure would become tomorrow's experience for a meal. Our ancestors overcame danger not with claws or brute strength, but with keen eyes, resourceful hands, and an unbreakable will. If you want to continue this journey back in time to uncover more brutal survival battles, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss the next episode, because each one reveals another survival secret you never imagined.